I found the letter the day my mother slammed her glass of Chardonnay on the kitchen island, screaming that I'd ruined her life. It was a sticky summer afternoon in our suburban Chicago home. The AC barely worked, cicadas outside buzzed like a broken alarm, and my mother's expensive perfume clashed with the scent of reheated microwave dinners she called dinners for survivors. I'm Callie Munro, 27, a small-town librarian everyone assumed was too soft to handle the real world. My mother, Linda, a local socialite obsessed with appearances and gala invitations. My brother, Drew, the golden boy, a failed entrepreneur who still believed he was Silicon Valley's next big thing. That morning, Drew announced he needed $150,000, 0 cents to save his startup. Some ridiculous AI dog-walking app. When I suggested he find a real job, my mother lost it. She called me worthless, a disappointment, claimed she wished I'd inherited just an ounce of Drew's ambition. I tuned out her words and slipped upstairs into Grandma Eleanor's old guest room, the only place that still felt safe. Hidden in the bottom drawer of a mahogany dresser, I found the letter. Its yellowed edges and shaky cursive felt like a secret handshape from the past. Inside was a single line that knocked the air out of my lungs. Callie, everything I've ever owned is yours now. Use it wisely and quietly. Attached was a list of properties, stocks, and art pieces worth nearly $35 million. 0 cents. I sat there shaking, the letter clutched in my hands, while angry footsteps thundered below. Outside, a neighbour's 4th of July flag swayed in the breeze. Kids biked by laughing. In that quiet suburb, nobody could imagine the storm brewing inside. Grandma Eleanor had always been seen as that weird artist, known for her abstract paintings and unmatched blueberry pies, but she had been a silent powerhouse, a savvy investor who built an empire without telling a soul. Everyone assumed she died broke. My mother claimed Grandma was a burden, a freeloader who wasted family resources. Drew called her a washed-up hippie, but she had hidden her wealth, protecting it from vultures. And from them. I remembered all the times she told me, be invisible until you're invincible. I thought it was just eccentric wisdom. It was her entire life strategy. I realized I had a choice. I could tell them and become their ATM, or I could stay quiet, observe, and wait for the perfect moment. I folded the letter and tucked it inside my worn-out tote bag. Back downstairs, my mother glared at me. Drew scrolled on his phone like nothing had happened. I picked up my keys. I'm heading back to the library, I said calmly. My mother sneered. Figures. Go hide in your dusty books. I turned to leave, a new clarity blooming inside me. They had no idea who they'd just pushed away, or who I was about to become. By Monday, I returned to my librarian desk as if nothing had happened, but in my head 1,000 doors had just opened. The library smelled of old paperbacks and lemon cleaner. The summer reading club poster hung crooked on the corkboard, and clunky computer screens glowed under the fluorescent lights. I was now 2 people, Callie the plain librarian, and Callie the hidden heiress who could buy every house on our street twice over. Drew texted me that morning. Hey, loser, can you Venmo me $200, 0 cents for gas? Investor dinner in Milwaukee tonight. The audacity stung, but didn't surprise me. My mother chimed in later. Don't forget your brother is working on something big. Help him out. I typed an email to Grandma's old lawyer, requesting full control over her estate. Meanwhile, I scanned books for kids, my face calm. They giggled, asking about dinosaurs and astronauts, blissfully unaware a quiet war was brewing at home. During lunch, I checked my phone. The estate transfer was confirmed. The lawyer's message ended with, "Your grandmother always believed in you. She called you her lighthouse." My hands shook so hard, I nearly dropped my sandwich. I decided then, I wouldn't confront them yet. I'd let them reveal their true faces, the greed, the illusions, the desperation. My power was hidden in plain sight. As I stamped return dates on borrowed books, I realized no one ever truly looks at the quiet girl behind the desk. That invisibility would be my sharpest weapon. That evening, I pulled into my driveway just as Drew left the house, suit half ironed, shoes still tagged from Nordstrom rack. The street glowed under golden porch lights, sprinklers clicked in the distance, neighborhood kids zipped by on scooters, chasing fireflies. My mother peeked out the front door, her expression a toxic mix of disappointment and pride as she watched Drew leave. She barely acknowledged me when I walked inside. "Did you bring groceries?" she snapped. I placed a single brown bag on the counter. "That's it," she hissed. "You're so useless." Her voice cracked on the last word. Maybe she felt it too, the tremors beneath her perfect image. I knew exactly how much debt she had. The unpaid Home Depot card, the secret payday loan, the refinanced mortgage she signed without reading the fine print. All of it sat neatly summarized on my laptop upstairs. That night, I received an alert. She had tried to transfer $10,000, 0 cents, from a dormant account Grandma opened for future family education. She didn't know I'd already secured legal ownership of it. I let the transaction bounce. No warning, no explanation, just quiet rejection. The next morning, Mum burst into my room without knocking, her face pale, mascara smudged, phone trembling in her hand. Sunlight filtered through my curtains, painting soft lines across my bookshelf. The tension crackled like static. "Callie, the transfer didn't go through," she shrieked. "That was for Drew. You know he needs this. Fix it now. You're good with computers, aren't you?" I stood slowly, folding my quilt, calm like the eye of a hurricane. "I don't know what you're talking about," I answered softly. My words felt like sharp glass on her ego. Her voice cracked. "You're useless. I should have known you'd never support this family properly." I looked her straight in the eyes for the first time in years. "You mean like all those years I worked 2 jobs to pay for my degree? Or when I paid the heating bill because Drew needed new equipment for his launch?" She froze, mouth open, no words left. In that silence, something shifted. She saw me. Not as the quiet girl in the library, but as someone she couldn't control anymore. She stormed out, slamming the door so hard the books on my shelf rattled. I sat back down, opened my laptop, and finalized a set of silent foreclosure notices. My hands didn't tremble this time. That afternoon, as Drew tagged luxury brunch spots and Mum drowned in another glass of cheap wine, I quietly started taking back everything they believed was theirs. 2 days later, Mum called me into the living room like she was summoning a maid. "We're hosting an investor dinner for Drew's new app next week. You need to be there and don't embarrass her." The living room had been hastily staged with fake floral centerpieces and rented tableware. Drew's old gaming chair sat awkwardly near the fireplace, hinting at the truth behind the facade. Drew was pacing, rehearsing his pitch about an app that would revolutionize pet wellness using AI emotion sensors. Mum hovered nearby, fussing with cheap candles, imagining the neighbors peeking in awe. "You'll wear this," she snapped, tossing me a box. Inside was a tight emerald green cocktail dress. Tacky. Shiny. The type influencers return after posting one photo. "We need to look like a united, sophisticated family," she hissed. I looked at the dress and thought of Grandma's last sketchbook, filled with notes about dignity and quiet power. I forced a small smile. "Of course," I lied. Drew shot me a condescending smirk. "Try not to talk about books or dead poets, yeah? Investors don't care about that crap." That night, I opened my laptop. As they obsessed over candle placements, I quietly bought the lien on our family home through one of my shell companies. The house they treated like a trophy would become my final card. They had no clue they were practicing for their own final act. I could always hear Grandma's voice. It's always the quiet ones they never see coming. I zipped the green dress back into the box, feeling no bitterness, only a strange, rising sense of calm. The night of the dinner arrived. The rented cutlery gleamed under string lights Mum had hung too low. Guests in cheap designer knockoffs clustered by the charcuterie table, whispering about IPOs they didn't actually understand. Our backyard was a mismatched collage of folding chairs, faux ivy walls, and Drew's college banners posing as branding. Mum paraded between guests, introducing Drew like he was Elon Musk's secret protégé. Drew basked in it, laughing loudly at his own jokes, adjusting his cufflinks for no reason. I stayed by the garden, quiet, observing. My dress felt like a cheap costume. A woman with a Chanel knockoff bag asked me, "So, what do you do?" "Oh, I run a library program," I said softly. Her eyes glazed over. She turned back to Drew's story about revolutionizing pet moods. Between toasts, I slipped inside to check my phone. The final ownership transfer on the house had gone through. In 72 hours, foreclosure notices would arrive under my signature. When I returned to the garden, Drew was telling guests, "Callie here. She's sweet but totally lost. No ambition." Everyone laughed. Mum nodded approvingly, her smile tight and cold. I raised my glass slightly. "To lost girls," I whispered. No one heard, but my pulse steadied. I wasn't lost. I was exactly where I needed to be. After the last guest left, Drew high-fived Mum like they had just won Shark Tank. I hung the green dress back in the closet, took a long breath and started packing my overnight bag. The house was no longer theirs, and they were about to learn what losing truly felt like. 3 days later, a thick envelope arrived on our doorstep at sunrise. I sat on the porch swing, sipping lukewarm coffee as the mail truck sped off. The air was crisp, a hint of autumn finally slicing through the heavy Midwest humidity. A single squirrel scurried across the lawn, unaware everything here was about to change. Mum found the envelope first. Her face drained of colour, lips twitching as she tried to steady her breath. She dropped it like it burned her skin. What is this, Callie?" Her voice cracked. Drew stumbled over, reading the notice upside down, confusion painted across his face. Foreclosure? Immediate seizure if debts weren't resolved. Listed creditor Hawthorne Holdings, LLC, a shell I set up months ago. I stood up slowly. "Looks like your golden empire is leaking," I said, my voice as flat as a librarian's overdue fee reminder. Drew lunged toward me, his breath sour with last night's whiskey. "You did this, you worthless!" I stepped back, calm. "No, Drew, you did this. You and Mum. You spent money you didn't have on illusions you didn't deserve." Mum fell to her knees, gripping the marble island. "Please, Callie, you can fix this. You always fix everything." I tilted my head slightly. "This isn't a library fine I can waive. This is reality." Silence swallowed the kitchen. Even the cheap clock above the stove seemed to stop ticking. The morning light now felt harsh, illuminating every smudge on the cabinets, every unpaid bill stacked on the counter. Mum's mascara-streaked face looked nothing like the polished gala queen she forced upon the town. Drew's shoulders finally sagged. No more performance left. "You ruined us," Mum whispered, her voice raw and small. "We're family. You were supposed to support your brother, help us keep our status." I thought about the scholarships I worked 3 jobs to earn. The nights I ate ramen while Drew popped champagne. The day Mum told me I'd never amount to anything if I stayed buried in books. I pulled out a second envelope from my tote bag and placed it on the counter. "I didn't ruin you," I said softly. "I gave you the exact freedom you gave me. None." Inside were contracts, terms of restructuring, job offers at local stores, a payment plan for a modest apartment across town. Conditions. No lavish spending, no more bailouts, no more illusions. Mum opened it with shaking hands, reading each line like they were foreign words. Drew stayed frozen, eyes empty. "I don't hate you," I whispered, stepping back. "But I won't save you from yourselves." I turned and left the kitchen. As I closed the door behind me, a final wave of quiet satisfaction rolled over me. The girl they called invisible had just turned into the one figure they could never escape. A week later, I moved into a tiny studio apartment on the north side of town. No marble countertops, no sparkling chandeliers, just a small reading nook and the scent of strong morning coffee. The window overlooked a community garden where retirees tended tomatoes and little kids raced around in superhero capes. My bookshelf stood next to a second-hand rocking chair, the same one Grandma used to sit in. For the first time in years, I felt like myself. Not the daughter, not the wallet, not the invisible shadow, just Callie. I spent my mornings at the library, my afternoons volunteering at a literacy program, and my evenings sorting through Grandma's art pieces to donate to local museums. Meanwhile, Mum and Drew scrambled to adjust. They moved into the modest apartment across town. 2 bedrooms, no walk-in closets, no showy driveway. Drew started working at a pet supply warehouse. Mum took a part-time cashier job at a grocery store, something she had always mocked. One evening, she texted me, "I can't do this. I don't know how to live like this. You've destroyed everything." I stared at the screen, thumb hovering. I replied, "This is life without illusions. You'll survive, maybe even find something real." A few weeks later, I ran into her at the farmer's market. She looked thinner, her face softer, her eyes no longer darting for approval. She stood by a stand selling fresh herbs, clutching a small basket with only a few vegetables and basil. She almost didn't recognize me. Then her eyes widened, and for a moment I saw the woman she might have been. She opened her mouth, closed it again. Finally, she said in a small voice, "I got a compliment from my supervisor yesterday. He said I was fast on the register." I nodded, my throat tight. "That's good, Mum. That's really good." She took a shaky breath. I think I understand now. You didn't want to destroy us. You wanted us to see ourselves." I smiled faintly. It wasn't about punishment. It was about freedom. Even if it had to hurt first. She wiped a tear, gave a small, almost apologetic nod, and turned to leave. I watched her disappear into the market crowd, her steps small but steady. 2 years later, I stood backstage at a leadership conference in Seattle, gripping a tiny note card with trembling fingers. The auditorium hummed with quiet energy. Rows of students, young founders and non-profit workers waited for the anonymous benefactor they'd heard rumors about, the woman funding scholarships and rebuilding community libraries. I adjusted my simple black blazer. On my wrist was Grandma Eleanor's old watch, the one she wore while painting. It didn't match the gold Rolexes in the audience, but it felt like armor. The host introduced me. "Please welcome Callie Monroe, investor, philanthropist, and the woman behind our new literacy initiative." I stepped forward, lights blinding, heart thudding. I thought of the green cocktail dress, Drew's laughter, Mum's shrill insults, echoes from a lifetime ago. I took a breath. "When I was younger, I thought invisibility was weakness," I began, voice shaking. "But sometimes invisibility is where you build your true strength, unjudged, unnoticed, underestimated." The room fell silent. In the front row, a girl no older than 20 sat curled inward. She reminded me of myself, hidden, scared, waiting for permission to be seen. I locked eyes with her. You don't need anyone's permission to shine. You don't have to fit into anyone's narrative. Write your own story, even if no one claps at first. After the speech, she approached me backstage, hands trembling as she clutched a notebook covered in doodles. "Hi, I'm Jenna. My mum thinks I'm wasting my time writing, but when you spoke, I felt like maybe I'm not so lost." I smiled softly. "You're not lost. You're just waiting to choose your path." She nodded, tears welling. "I don't want to disappoint her. But I don't want to disappear either. I placed a hand on her shoulder. It took me years to realize you can't live your life for people who only see their reflection in you. You owe it to yourself to exist loudly, even if only for yourself at first. She hugged me tightly, the kind that holds gratitude too big for words. As she pulled away, she whispered, "Thank you for being a lighthouse." Later that night, I sat alone in my studio apartment, Grandma's watch ticking steadily on my wrist. Across the room, her last painting, a lighthouse on a stormy sea, leaned against the wall. I realized all the silence, rejection, and betrayal had been the waves shaping my own light. Outside, Seattle's skyline glowed under a gentle drizzle. I sipped my tea, feeling not triumphant, but finally at peace. No masks, no games, just me. The girl they once called invisible, now a lighthouse for others still waiting to find their horizon. Sometimes, the sweetest revenge isn't about making them watch you rise. It's about becoming so bright that they can't pretend they never saw you in the first place.